Tiffany Henyard is being held accountable for shutting out residents. Now, why would we get to the point where we're basically having a conversation about Tiffany Henyard shutting out residents? Why would that be a thing? Why would they, and why is the news now reporting on Tiffany Henyard shutting out residents? This girl, I'm telling you, she just can't get right. I don't know why she wants so much visibility, but let's get into it.
There is new controversy this afternoon for Tiffany Henyard.
Dane Placco has the fiery details on the public township meeting that was abruptly shut down last night. Dane?
Yeah, politicians don't always like to hear from the public, let's be honest, but under the law, you do have a right to speak at part of any public meeting, which is why what happened last night in Dolton Township has some residents there outraged.
When I arrived, there was security here. He was standing at the bottom of the stairs, preventing anybody from going up to the boardroom. I asked him if the meeting was downstairs. He replied yes.
Stephanie Wiedemann was among a handful of Dolton Township residents who came to last night's board meeting to speak their mind to controversial Supervisor Tiffany Henyard during the public comment section of that board meeting, which is required by law. But they never got that chance. They say they were blocked from going to the boardroom and sent to the basement instead, where they were told the meeting would be held. It wasn't. Before they knew what had happened, the meeting upstairs in the boardroom was over in a matter of 4 minutes, and Henyard was gone. They say they were hoodwinked and their right to speak violated because Henyard didn't want to hear what they had to say.
We thought that they were purposely keeping the public away so that if they did invite us up, time for public comment had already passed.
Hold on, wait. So this is not what we gonna do. We not gonna have these good white folks. Let me revise that. We're not gonna have these good white folks being sent into the basement, to the back of the bus, and them not being able to speak their mind, especially when it comes to what is going on in a township. They are there as residents, which is by law their right to be able to speak their mind at these meetings and illustrate or emphasize exactly what their thoughts are as far as them being ran into the ground in a township always in the news for the wrong reasons. Now, we don't know what these good white folks wanted to say at this meeting, but what we do know is that you can't just do what you want to do when you want to do it. You should have recognized that this may be my... Look. You know what I noticed from a lot of people? They want the money, they want the power, they don't want the responsibility. They don't want what comes with it. You signed up so that you can make well over $300,000 a year in combined salary, especially when you start to add in the per diems and all of the perks and the cars and all of this stuff. And you don't want the responsibility that comes along with it. You don't want the accountability. Now, with that comes accountability. And so, it was a guy that was commenting in my comments on After Hours last night, and I was talking about how I had a meeting yesterday after I got off the live stream with the executive committee, and then I also had a one-on-one with my boss, right? And he said, I can't believe you got a boss. How a boss gonna have a boss? And I was thinking to myself, like, we all have somebody that we have to answer to. Every last one of us has somebody that we have to answer to. As a matter of fact, I embrace being openly accountable and never being above reproach, to where if I'm going to be an equal accountability smoke giver, then I also have to be willing to receive feedback from people that may or may not agree with me. Now, I have the right to defend myself, especially verbally, and we can have a conversation or we can have a debate, however you want to play that. But the fact of the matter is that every single one of us on this planet, and I don't know who told y'all what being a leader is actually being below the people that you serve. And that's where we get it confused. We get these positions because we want to be a boss dude or a boss chick, and everybody keep labeling themselves a boss. When you label yourself a boss, you actually label yourself a servant. I don't know what they've been teaching y'all, but I'm actually giving y'all the game. The phrase servant leadership comes from Scripture. It was the reason why Jesus himself washed the feet of his disciples because they thought that he was supposed to be heralded, but he wasn't. He was only supposed to be celebrated. And the reason that he put himself, or God actually gave his only begotten son to walk amongst man, was to show you and give you an example of how it is that you were supposed to live your life. And so he was the perfect example. That's why they call it the living word, because if he can do it, and then greater things are we to do, after he's already given us the example, then we have no excuse to continue to live our lives that way. So when you label yourself a boss, or when you get a position to where you have employees, or you have people that work under you, a lot of times what we didn't do was get the training or get the understanding or build our character to where we actually are supposed to be held accountable, because your job is to serve the people. It's to put the people in the best position possible. My job is to give you all of the game, all of the insight, all of the information, and then put you in a position to be able to succeed. My job is not to look to fire you. My job is not to look to boss you around. My job is not to look to see where it is that I can make the most out of you so I can enrich myself. My job is to help you succeed, understanding that if you become greater, then I become greater as a result of it. It's the reason why you've never seen me say, hit the Cash App. You've never seen me ask for a super chat. Although the people pour into me because they see the value that I already bring, because my job was to add value into you first, to keep the price as low as possible, to keep the barrier to entry as low as possible. If anything, I then invest in my people, because that's what being a leader is. It's being a servant. You are a servant to the people. Your job is to answer and hearken to the voice of the people, not to make yourself greater. So when I see people operating like they just in control of everything, and that they can tell people what to do, and they can leverage city services and taxpayer dollars in order to do what they want to do when they want to do it, it's an automatic red flag to me, because I know that you're not really prepared for what leadership is. And every single one of us have to answer to somebody. And I'm not just talking to God. I'm talking about, if you are being compensated, if you are participating in this world, it is somebody somewhere that you have to answer to. The CEO of the company didn't even get that job until the people that are on the board decided that he was supposed to get that job. Yes, the CEO has bosses that he has to answer to. How do you think that they get fired? The board often at times has to answer to the federal government, regulators, and also other shareholders. If you are on this platform, you are serving the people, the audience. If you own a restaurant, if you own a small business, the customers are the ones that determine your success. They are the ones that feed into it. That's why I'm so humble. That's why I'm so thank you. That's why every time I get on this platform, I tell y'all how much I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, and it does not go unnoticed, because it's not that I'm so great. It's that I am just amongst a group of people that see value in what it is that I add into their life. And then I thank them as a result of it, because without y'all, we don't even have this platform. And this don't mean nothing. It's the people that make you. Similarly, even more so when you become a public servant, when you hold a position, when you a mayor, a governor, a president, or whatever, for you to just ignore the voice of the people instead of helping them to understand and explaining it to them and hearkening unto their voice and figuring out how you can serve them. Yes, you are going to get paid for it. That is fine. That is your reasonable service. They're paying you to do your job. But at the same time, your job as a leader extends beyond whatever it is that your basic responsibilities are. It's to serve the people. So when I see stuff like this and people trying to dodge responsibility and accountability, that's not the sign of a good leader.
They are violating our rights. I pay taxes here. I have a right to get up and speak, whether this administration likes it or not.
Now, they are going to file a complaint with the Illinois Attorney General's office under the Open Meetings Act. We reached out to Henyard late this afternoon, have still not heard back. And also shut out of that meeting last night, a local reporter who was just there to hear what the board had to say. We'll have his story coming up at 5. What happened when you tried to go upstairs to the board meeting?
The security guard won't let me up. He just stands at the bottom of the stairs like this.
Politicians don't always like to hear from the public, but some South suburban residents say controversial supervisor and mayor Tiffany Henyard has gone too far.
Yeah, they say she took extraordinary, potentially illegal measures to prevent them from speaking at a public meeting. Dame Placo has more.
The sign outside its headquarters says, "Welcome to Thornton Township, people working with people." But when residents showed up last night to speak at a public board meeting, they got anything but a warm welcome.
When I arrived, there was security here. He was standing at the bottom of the stairs, preventing anybody from going up to the boardroom. I asked him if the meeting was downstairs. He replied yes.
Stephanie Wiedemann and a handful of other residents wanted to speak directly to Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, also the mayor of Dolton, who's generated controversy for spending hundreds of thousands of tax dollars on trips, police security, billboards, and her own personal charity.
I'm just curious to see who makes the decisions about how our tax dollars are being spent.
But they never got that chance. After being blocked from going to the boardroom upstairs, they were sent to the basement where they were told the township board meeting would be held. It wasn't. They asked for a sign-up sheet for public comment, never got it. And before they knew what had happened, the 4-minute meeting upstairs was over, and Henyard was gone, without hearing from her constituents.
They are violating our rights. I pay taxes here. I have a right to get up and speak whether this administration likes it or not.
And not only were the residents shut out, so was a local newspaper reporter who came here to cover the meeting.
I was told by a security guard that I was not allowed upstairs where the boardroom meeting is.
Josh Bootsma of the Lansing Journal says residents deserve to know how elected officials are spending their money.
Thornton Township is the largest township in Illinois. And so there are a lot of people that are affected by the decisions, the financial decisions that this township makes.
Even Thornton Township trustee Chris Gonzalez, a frequent Henyard critic, was ordered out of the boardroom until the meeting began. Do you think any laws were broken last night by the way they handled the public?
Well, definitely. I mean, if somebody wants to speak, it's a public meeting, it's a public building. They should be able to come in.
The residents say they'll file a complaint with the Illinois Attorney General's office for violating the Open Meetings Act. Our attempts to contact Henyard also went nowhere. In South Holland, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
So my question then becomes, what do we make of this situation as we continue to see this spiral all the way down into the toilet? I don't know whether this should be a cautionary tale or if this should be something that we embrace. Shout out to Leslie Aaron. Shout out to the people that's holding me down. I'm going to read those super chats shortly. I don't know what to make of it. You know what I'm saying? Because on one hand, I'm very, very mindful of, I get so much information about this woman on a daily basis. It's so easy. It's so easy to just, destroy this woman. And I was talking about it on After Hours the other night. But because I'm mindful and I make a concerted effort to separate what I think and how I feel about her in particular. Like I'll give you an example, right? One of the things that a lot of people reported on months ago that I actually had that information and people had sent it to me, but I rejected reporting on it was her criminal past and her criminal history. Why? Because it had nothing to do with what we were reporting on as far as her ability to do her job. And so you've never seen me on this platform pull up a mugshot. You've never seen me talk about anything that she's ever gotten arrested for or anything like that because it's not relevant, right? I know what her personal situations are. I know who she tied to. I know what's going on with this and that. And I'm choosing my words very carefully. But as people with platforms, and in my opinion, in my humble opinion, this is what leadership is. As a person with a platform that tends to have a voice and an ear of the people, and I'm going significantly up, like I'm going way up, I got to separate the two and I got to be objective. And so if it has nothing to do with taxpayer dollars, if it has nothing to do with your inability to do your job, or you didn't personally say it online for me to react to, then I have to stay away from it. I have to stay away from it. I can't talk about it. I can't speak about it. I don't want to deep dive into it. I don't want everybody else around you that may not even agree with your behavior to suffer also due to your ignorance and negligence in managing the city effectively. But you at some point, it's almost like, when is this girl gonna catch on? When is she gonna learn a lesson? When is she gonna stop doing what she's been doing? And when is she gonna really figure it out? Or is this 100% just going to be her story and that's the end of the conversation and nothing else that we can talk about outside of this? Because I'm starting to feel bad for her. I'm starting to feel sorry for her. I'm genuinely starting to feel sorry for how she's moving and how she's operating and whether or not this actually makes sense for us to continue to have this conversation. So, considering that, we still gonna keep it above board. We still gonna keep it a buck and we gonna keep it 100.